We're gonna have to, I can't take that seriously. I can't take that seriously whatsoever. If anyone's watching it, I'm going to carry it on. I can't be bothered. If anyone's watching this and wondering what I'm talking about, when you start the new Zoom calls off, it was this robotic American accent. This meeting is being recorded, and I just can't take it seriously. I don't know how many meetings I've been in today, and I've heard it. It still makes me laugh. Right, we're cracking on, lads. I've already got the title of tonight's show in my head, and it is Khaldoon's War Cry, because Cloud, you're going to take us on this in a moment, but from what I have heard and what I've seen, I'll be watching the first part of it this evening. We have had a resounding we're coming to fill some key positions in the transfer market, and I think it's the first time I've actually heard him properly come out and say, do you know what, we're going to spend money. We're going to spend money, and we're not going anywhere. We'll be back just as strong next year. So, Cloud, take me through what the highlights were for you of what he came across.
Yeah, so I mean, Khaldoon always comes across fantastically in his interviews, and the second part is going to be coming out by the time this show's, uploaded. It will be out. But he talked about quite a few things, and there were two main takeaways. The first of all was the way that he put it across. Khaldoon says, if you're not strengthening the team, you're standing still. Or you're going backwards, one or two things. He said, so regardless of all the things we're very proud of that we've done this year, we want to come back next year even stronger than what we are currently. And he also said that he's also looking at, the team spending big on quite a few names, which is something that City don't normally do. And with Aguero leaving and that being identified, that's definitely one area that's going to be looked at. And then, of course, other areas, which we've speculated might be left back or something like that, he's played those cards quite close to his chest. And with that, it's a very great way to do business, because no one in the club really knows. A lot of those players think, crap, what if that's me sort of thing. So it's got everyone fighting for places in that team year in, year out. And then the other conversation was about Pep, where he said that he knew after meeting with Pep and how Pep felt after those bad string of results, that he knew extending the contract was the right thing and that we were going to go far in the Champions League.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because one of the quotes I've seen from Khaldoon about Pep is a very special human being. And he generally is. Khaldoon he's obviously. I'd love to work for him. It just seems like that was one of those types of people. You know exactly what you're going to get with him, and you got absolute faith in he's going to do exactly what he says. Things that he said. I never had doubt in Pep. You cannot be but confident in watching Pep's teams and the way we play football. Yeah. And it's so true. I don't want any other manager managing my club. I don't want anyone manager anywhere near my club while Pep's still able to stand on the touchline. And one of the key things that the big takeaway is for it is, I think you've looked at it from a different angle to me there, Cloud, in saying that we're going to be recruiting in key positions, but actually all the players have got to pick up their game here, because if we're not, as he said, if we're standing still, we're kind of left behind. So all the players are thinking to themselves, I can't rest on my laurels now. I've got to bring my A game. We had disappointment against Chelsea, of course we did. But if you think that gets me away from not working my absolute damnedest in training and wanting to win every single game, I've got another thing coming. And I really like that attitude and that mentality that comes across. But we'll talk in a moment about a few players that have obviously been heavily on the radar. But one of the biggest things I found surprising was, I think I mentioned it a few moments ago, he's never really come out and said he's going to spend big before. This must be a first for him. So, we City get bandied around left, right, and centre for spending copious millions and millions. So, do you know what? Let's do it. Let's go and do it. But is he going to do what we've talked about in the last couple of months, Cloud and Neil, and him spending over £70 million on one player, £100 million on one player? I still can't understand it. But after seeing those quotes, actually, do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he drops 120 million on Harry Kane now. After reading that, what do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I still think it's not that likely, because even though he said all of that, our transfer policy doesn't change after one interview. There's obviously lots of meetings and everything going on, and they're not going to change it after even one season. And if there ever was a time they were going to spend a lot of money, it certainly isn't in the midst of a pandemic when the stadiums are empty and everything. So I still don't see us spending 100 million plus on one player, but I'd say that the likelihood of that is certainly more than what I initially anticipated, at least after listening to what Khaldoon had to say.
From what you said there, though, that sounds totally the opposite of what Khaldoon said.
Yeah,
That
I
sounds
know.
completely the opposite of what he's come out and saying. And I don't necessarily think City are bothered about the stadiums being full to earning the money.
Yeah, no, yeah, obviously not. But like, if you think that there was ever going to be a season where we would change our transfer policy, I wouldn't think it would be the end of this season. You usually change something when it really needs to be changed, and when the overall market is stable. And
Other
I
side of the
wouldn't.
coin. Other side of the coin, now, from a business perspective, when
Hmm.
when do you strike when your enemies are
At the,
their
yeah,
weakest opportunity? And I tell you what, there's no other. The clubs throughout the world are extremely
yeah,
weak
that's a fair
financially at the
point.
moment, and City have
Yeah, that's
got
a good point.
a lot of a slush fund. So if we're going to strike hard, it's going to be this transfer window, which excites me a little bit, because I was feeling a bit doom and gloomy about our transfers. I could never imagine us spending big. But where's it going for you, Card? What do you read into that? Do you think he's thinking talking big as City talk big 60s, 70s, 80s, or you think he's going to spend upwards?
There's a few ways to interpret it. I've got the quote here. Now, it's not me taking this quote, so if it's incorrect, anyone listening, I apologise. The quote that I'm reading is from Khaldoon. It says, "We're ready to spend big on a couple of new players this summer." And there's a few ways to interpret that. I personally think that means we'll spend big, but on first-team players rather than an actual valuation. And there are certain players who come, like when Ake and Torres came in, you can see that they're more of a rotation player. And when Diaz comes in, you're like, that's a marquee signing before he even kicked the ball for us. Commercially, you touched on, like whether we're spending big on the players like Kane. If it's, if we've got time, do you want to go through sort of what I think will happen with the Kane type thing?
Before you do that, can you just repeat that quote for me again, so I can just can understand it again?
It says, we're ready to spend big on a couple of new players this summer.
Right. So for me, that can be when you read that out, that I could interpret that to say actually spending big on 2 or 3 players.
That's how I see
in
it.
one lot of money, rather than we're going to spend 80 million on 3 players. We could spend 100 million on 3 players, basically. That
that's what I think
that way.
well.
Yeah, no, I can that would make more sense to what we've been doing previously than what everyone else is expecting us to spunk 100 million on Harry. But please, Carl, jump into your point.
So I'm just going to go into detail for anyone who already knows this. Understandable. For anyone else, the way that financial fair play works is when you spend big on a player, the total amount of the fee, the wages, the agent fees, that's all taken over the entirety of the contract for that player. So if you spend 120 million on a player, the wages, agent fees, plus that transfer fee are broken up over those 6 years. Now, when you're looking at a player like Harry Kane, who's going to be 28 by the time we get him to play, we're not in a position where we can offer him a 6-year contract. And so if we go to spend big money on him and it's a smaller contract, that's going to restrict us even more financially throughout the next couple of years. And that could be a huge problem for a team like City. So if you've got a player like Felix, who's young, or Haaland, who's young, and then someone like Kane, although the values might be very similar, the way that we operate within financial fair play is massively different. And that's why, personally, I agree with Neil. I don't think, even with a club as big as City, we can actually afford Kane with everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree.
How are we doing, Amy? Okay.
Yeah, good, thank you.
You've come right into the middle of a conversation about Khaldoon's quotes from the first round of his interview. Did you manage to watch it yesterday?
No, I haven't. I was driving back up to Newcastle, so.
Bless you. Well, basically, we're buying everybody. The world's in trouble. Cutting a long story short, we're just trying to analyze his quotes, because he's a very carefully, he words things extremely carefully. And I kind of, when I first saw it, I thought we're going to spend big on one player, whereas actually he uses his words extremely carefully by saying we're going to spend big on a couple of players. So what do you think is more likely for what we're looking to do, Amy, in the future? Do you think we're going to be spending the 100 million plus, or are we going to spend the 100 million on 2 or 3 players?
I'd rather spend on more players personally, but I think I've seen lots of things that it seems pretty certain we're getting Kane. I don't see him going anywhere else. I don't think he'll go abroad. He doesn't want to go to United. He won't. I don't think Chelsea. Well, if anyone was going to, it'd be Chelsea, but they've just got Werner Havertz. I don't think they need him particularly. I don't see him going anywhere else. That's the only thing. So
it's a funny one. This I'm trying not to get too excited about buying a marquee type signing, but I think it'd do a lot of City fans a lot of good to sign somebody like the Haalands and the Kanes. They're gonna. I'm half inclined to say there's going to be a lot of disappointed people in a month's time when Harry Kane signs a new contract. I don't know, Neil. What do you reckon, pal? You must have a couple of names up your sleeve who you think we could be looking at.
Yeah, before I come up with different names, this one's one if we do not manage to sign a striker. So I'm not saying this is our first choice, but in the event that we don't get a pure striker, I would actually consider keeping Lucas Mecha at the club. So obviously, right now he's on loan at Anderlecht. His loan is over. He was on loan this season. He did very well, and I haven't watched him much in the Belgian league, but I did watch him in the under-21 Euros, and I think he's played 4 games and scored thrice. And just overall, his positioning, his finishing, and his general link-up play, which is quite important in a Pep team, how you interact with your other forwards, all of that really really impressed me. So if we don't get someone like Kane or Holland, of which I don't think we will, or even one step lower than them, a proven striker in a top 5 league, if we can't sign any such player, then I would actually consider keeping Nemecha at the club. But I don't.
Every time I look at Twitter, he seems to have scored another goal. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is. He seems to
he's
be
got
prolific.
21 this season in all competitions and 18 in 37 in the league. It's not bad.
That's all right, that isn't it? The
Yeah.
question is has he got the fit? Do you think in that attacking central forward position to displace somebody? I don't necessarily think he has. All I'm thinking of is I don't hear of many people chomping at the bit to sign him. That's all. Don't see many rumours about people looking into signing him, which is a signing time. Did he say he's out of contract this year as well?
Is he out of contract? Does he have 1 year?
I'm not sure. Yeah,
I
I
think he
know
has
we're
a year,
looking to listen to offers. So based on that, I
which
think he must
means
have at least a year.
yeah,
Otherwise, he'd be
exactly.
a free agent.
Exactly. So I agree with you. I don't think he is a long-term option for us. I don't think he is our first striker either. I'd say Jesus is certainly better than him. But if we can't get anyone else, then he is a more than capable backup in my eye, at least.
I just can't see us not signing somebody. So he can't get somebody else.
Yeah.
I just can't see us going
Yeah,
another season
it is.
without a striker. Somebody coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite likely that we sign someone, but then it's just if we do sign someone, if we're trying to sign a top player, we'd have to break our transfer record at least. I think if we don't break our transfer record, then I don't see us getting a top player, and then we'd have to look at some slightly under the radar players. So one name I'd say is I think Dan. Who I hope you're watching Dan. I think he's on the Alexander Isaac drum. So in my opinion, Isaac. I think it's Isaac. That's how you say it. He's a great player. He's done amazingly at Sociedad, but again, thing with these players is you just cannot be sure if they'll do it for what you call the big clubs, for a Champions League competing club. Until you don't see them, you cannot be 100% sure. So I think he's a great talent, but it is always a risk.
What's the most we spent on a player? Is it 65?
Yeah, Diaz. And that
Diaz.
65 was also a swap deal with Otamendi. So and Otamendi was what, I think 20 or something, I don't remember. So it was something closer to 40-50 that we actually paid.
Amy, from a positional point of view, where we, because the quotes were talking about several positions, not just the striking position. Where do you think we need to be looking at, and have you got any players in mind that you'd like to bring in?
I think we can. I think we need a striker most because I personally really like Zinchenko, so I'm not too worried about left back because we've got Cancelo that can cover there as well. So I don't think that's too big an issue. But I think striker is the biggest issue. But if we can bring Delap up into the first team next year, we've managed pretty much all season without Aguero anyway. Playing false nine or playing Jesus, and if we've got Delap as well, I don't think there's a desperate need really for any position, but if it was any, I think it would be a striker.
I've heard a lot about Andre Silva at Frankfurt.
Yeah, he's
that's
very
the name I
good.
was going to bring up. I was waiting for my
Sorry,
moment.
pal. Come on, you take it. I've never seen you jump so much.
He's a really good player, and he's got a very reasonable sort of release clause, I think, or at least offers that Frankfurt are looking to accept. I think it's about 40 million euros.
40 million. Looking at this, yeah.
I've got some stats ready here.
Go for
I was
it.
anticipating bringing them up. He scored 29 goals and got 10 assists so far this season. It's hard for me to show how relatively they are outside of the Bundesliga because obviously he hasn't played in the Champions League. But I was just having a look through the Bundesliga and there was a total of, it looks here, only about 7 games that he didn't either score or assist in, which really speaks to me about his consistency. In terms of the way that he plays, he's quite tall. I think he's 6'1", quite strong on the ball. But he loves to score goals with his head. And that just reminds me of Edin Dzeko.
So I was going to say, he's not your typical Pep wing attacker, is he? He's
more of a wants to get in there, poach the ball, get at it.
Almost a Harry Kane type player, basically, a cheaper Harry Kane.
Yeah, he reminds me of Raul Jimenez, and whether that's just because they're both Portuguese or not, but I get that sort of vibe from him really, and I love having players who are different for different games. Like, that's what I love about Rodri and Fernandinho. You've got a destroyer and you've got more of that Busquets type role, and that's what I love. And in terms of the other positions, I think defensive midfielders one, whether we get Benacer or somebody else, or I think is it Basuma from Brighton? Yeah, it's another name people are keen on. They both look great. Or left back. Left back, I think Zinchenko's fantastic, but he can't play 50, 60 games a season. Who we get there, I don't know, because I don't see a lot of emerging talent at left back. I hear names like, Tagliafico and however you say his name and players like that. But I feel like left backs get praised way too much on what they provide moving forward rather than what they have defensively. And I want someone who's either defensively sound or can drift into midfield as part of that pivot.
Yeah, and you touched up on the defensive midfield position. I'll throw in another name, Aurelien Tchouameni. He's played this season for Monaco in Liga, and I think they finished 3rd, and he's been sensational. He's top of Liga in most of the defensive metrics, tackles won, interceptions. He ranks above the 95th percentile, so he's been brilliant. He's, I think, 21 or 22. And the only real rumors I've seen for him, he's been linked to Chelsea this season, and that's all. And that's by goal, which is not what you'd call a tier 1 source either. So he is one. I don't think, from what I've seen, I don't think he's going this season. And I don't see Fernandinho staying after next season at best. So his profile it shouts Fernandinho replacement to me. So if we could get him, if not this season, next season, or if we could, get him, sign him this year and then send him back to Monaco on loan or do something like that, I would really like that.
I'm just looking at what was that name, guys? So it's Chowdhury, did you say?
Wait, I'll spell it. It's TCHOUA and then MENI.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Well done for pronouncing that name, crikey. Just coming back to Silva, I'm just having a look on transfer market now. I didn't realise the Portuguese first teamer. Yeah, 16 goals in 38 appearances for Portugal. That's no mean feat, that is it, to get into that squad and
with the talent they've got up front. Felix, Ronaldo playing on the right wing.
You could have me sold here, Cloud. You could have me sold here, pal. Yeah.
There's a lot of players I hear of in the striker position. I think he's great, but he doesn't scream to me City. And then for that, there's a few things I look at with transfers, but I looked at him and I thought everything makes sense. And some players just jump out to you as like a City player. Like when I saw us linked with Bernardo Silva, I thought he's going to join us and he's going to be great. It's just a player that you look at, you can't explain why, but they just scream City to you.
Especially with the Portuguese connection we've got.
Yeah.
Might as well set up a B team for them. What about defence, Amy? What do you think? You obviously you're a big fan of Zinchenko. Do we need to be looking at potential cover for Walker in the future? Is there anything there to be said, or I think the main areas are looking to strength? I don't know about left back. I think I said the other day, didn't I, Cloud? I just get a funny feeling Pep just still doesn't trust Zinchenko as much as what
I know.
he did. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't know. I could still see us signing somebody there, or certainly a utility player who can play central midfield as well, or pull into midfield, like you said, Neil.
Yeah, but I think the thing with left back is, if you look at the top left backs which are being linked for a transfer everyone, the likes of Robin Gosens at Atalanta or whatever, most are attack-minded centre backs who are brilliant at overlapping, brilliant at crossing, get in the box, maybe score the odd goal. We don't need that. As Cloud said, we need someone who can do a job defensively and then get into midfield in that inverted role. And there aren't too many left backs right now that I see who can do this job for a club like City. So I tend to agree there. I really don't know if we're going to sign someone this season.
It's an interesting one. We'll move on from this because I'm desperate to listen to this second interview tonight, which is in 23 minutes. But we're going to move on. We're going to end this quickly. But we've seen that Phil Foden's been nominated for Young Player of the Year. Brilliant news. What competition has he got? What do you reckon?
He's got has he got Mount in there?
Must have Mount, yeah.
Greenwood's in there, and who else?
I think Rashford's in there too.
Is Trent in there as well? I think.
Yeah, Trent's in there.
Yeah.
I think Rashford's in there
stiff
too.
competition there.
Yeah. Saka, I think.
One telling sign that Diaz could have been nominated for that, but he hasn't been. He's obviously been nominated as 3 other City players with Gundogan, Phil Foden, and Kevin De Bruyne. It's got Diaz written it all over it for that, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it must have. Does anyone disagree with me on here? Does anyone think that anyone else is good for a shout at that?
Kane. If we're not talking about a City player, I voted earlier and I voted Kane, not because, I'm a fake City. Oh, here's the thing. I'm going to give it to the best player. And if he played at City, to me, he would be the best player. So I'm not going to spoil someone else's achievement by voting with club bias.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, well done.
I voted Diaz. No, I voted Diaz.
I've gone Kane as well because what he's done with...
I can't believe my ears.
He's done that job with next to no support. Son, and that's pretty much been it for him this season. And his goals, his assists, he's top of both the charts for a team which is 7th. I don't know what else he has to do to win Player of the Year, even when there's a guy like Diaz.
I don't think it can go to someone that's going to play in the Conference League next year. I think that's a bit embarrassing. I don't think it can.
I don't see anyone else other than I'd give it to Diaz just purely for what he's done to us as a team. I think he's gone on and he's helped us win the trophies we've won this year. I think we would have been screwed without him. I think Stones and Laporte would have been interesting. We'd never know what those two would have been like this season, but I think Diaz has just been an absolute pillar for us.
Yeah.
I find it hard to see past that, but a game of football, it's a game of opinions. I completely understand that both of you two are wrong and I'm right. That's fine. So yeah, we're getting pretty much to the end of this now from our side of things. And obviously we're looking at Fernandinho signing a 1-year extension. That's got to be a good thing for us, and I really hope he moves into a coaching role at the end of it as well. I doubt he will.
Yeah.
You tend to find the overseas nationals wanting to go back home, etc., which you completely understand, but there must be something for him at the end of this, because he's obviously had such a big influence in us as a team, and it's another big name to leave us next season and to be replaced with. And I don't know, how do you feel? What do you feel about that? It's hard to see him go, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if he might stay, because he started off by paying his own money to join this club.
He did,
and I'm sure he loves this club. You look at him play, you watch him in interviews, he clearly loves this club. So if someone is going to stay after ending their career, I hope he does.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. Right, well, this is a short and sweet one. We'll go do another one after the second Khaldoon interview. Anyone got anything else to add before we shoot off?
I just want to add that I'm going to call it now. Obviously, it hasn't come out yet, but I really think that Khaldoon's going to touch in the second part of his interview about the whole Super League thing. And I'm very interested to see what he's going to say. I think he's going to touch on probably how they might have felt a bit forced to because the money was involved, but how they're always looking for a way out. But whatever he says, I do take what he says quite honestly. And even in those interviews, he doesn't ever come across like he's hiding anything. He's always very well spoken, and he's always been very open with us. And, you know, regardless of everything that happened, I do respect our board, and I do think they've done an amazing job for us.
I agree, and I would be extremely surprised if he doesn't mention it. He's very honest and open, and I think it's a massive elephant in the room that the club needs to come out and talk about. And so yeah, no, completely agree with you. And yeah, God, it's not long until it's like an episode of Coronation Street. This isn't it? Waiting to watch it. Right, guys, love you and leave you. Have a fantastic evening. I'll speak to you soon.
See ya.
Catch you later, guys. Bye.